Hey guys, Mark from Fretting It Forward. Going in to go see Troy for a restring in my IBANEZ acoustic. Stay with us.
All right.
So here you go, Troy. This is it. This is my IBANEZ acoustic electric, and wanted to get your first impressions on it and do a restring, obviously.
Well, this is pretty cool shape. I haven't seen one of these for a few years, but I remember this style. And yeah, let me see what we got. Some issues here. What do we got? Well, the neck has got a little bit of bow, not too bad.
See how high that action is? I was telling you.
Yeah,
about?
you've got a little bit of, you know, it's bellied a little bit, but not much.
What do you mean by that?
It's kind of bulged up a little bit, probably
Oh,
from sitting with tension on the strings forever and not being played, probably.
Oh, you think is that right? That's what that term means. I never knew that.
Yeah, but it's not horrible. You got a huge saddle there. I mean, it's like pretty high, but let's see what we can do with the truss rod and maybe some lighter strings to see if we can do anything before we get drastic and have to like grind on the saddle or something.
Let's get close to it. Let's talk about that bridge and that belling you're talking about.
Okay, so this model, for all intents and purposes, should be flat across here, right? It should be flat, but it's bowed up, it's pulled up just a little bit, just from the tension. It's over the years. It's not bad, it's pretty good. It's not horrible. It's just, it happens to a lot of guitars. Could happen to a Martin, it could happen to whatever, Takamon, whatever.
Interesting. And then this bridge layout, it's pretty standard. You've seen this before, yeah?
Yeah, I've seen it, you know, and you've got a little bit of, you notice the finish is a little bit pulling up, like where the bridge is wanting to pull up a little bit there too.
Okay. I never noticed that. Oh, I see that now. Gosh.
Yeah.
Very obvious right there,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's bellying a little bit. So, yeah, we'll see what we can do. All right, so this is your typical Ibanez nut. They're a little bit different than everybody's nuts. They're cool though. They're very, very good. You know, you can make for a low action. They're, like I said, they're like half of it's missing on this side, but it makes this side easy to work with. They've been doing that for years on their acoustic guitars, you know. And then you've got typical like rosewood fingerboard, the Ibanez tuners, which their tuners are really good, by the way. Pretty decent tuners.
They are. They're kind of clunky. They stick a little bit. Is there anything we could do to make that?
Are they completely sealed?
Yeah, they are. I see they are, right? Or you may know differently.
Yeah, there's not a lot we can do other than like the strings haven't been changed a lot, so there's grease in there. So as they're turning more and more, the grease will turn, as long as it's not hardened, right? It'll turn and kind of self-lubricate. But there's not much you can do about that. Yeah, and then you've got a regular like electric type of pickup in the front, which is probably voiced for acoustic, but that's just a regular magnetic pickup, which is kind of cool. I don't know if there's a pickup in the bridge as well. I don't know if there's a blend or whatever, but let's see if there's a blend or no, it's just
a single pickup at the front, right?
Single pickup at the front, which is good. There's a lot of that. The majority of the vibration of the guitar is going to be in this area. You know, as you go back towards the bridge, it's more trebly, but it vibrates less because there's you know, it's just less vibration here. It's stiffer going back towards the bridge, and it's more trebly. So they're trying to get a balance, which is good. You know, that's why the treble pickups have more winding and are wound hotter, because they need more output because they not as much vibration.
Yes.
All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is just take the truss rod cover off so we can just kind of make any sort of adjustments that might help us before I usually try and do a little rough adjustment before I put the new strings on, just to get it a little, you know, a little more straight than what it is. It's not too bad, but it's a little bit of work, you know. And then after that, we can just, you know, fine tune it with some. We're going to put some lighter strings on it than what it's got now. I think these are 12s. Yeah, at least 12s. They're pretty heavy. We'll get something really light, considering it's going to be a little difficult to play with the action high.
Yeah, we're playing, I want to say like some Van Morrison. We're playing some Beatles, and some of the songs they have me playing require some acoustic. Well, Van Morrison specifically, you know.
Right.
And that kind of vibe, it would sound much better playing that type of music through something like this.
Right.
And if not, I was thinking about using nylon string, but the nylon string guitars, like my wife and my son have, you can't hook those up because there's no pickup, right?
Well, some of them have it, but if it doesn't have it, it doesn't have it. You'd have to have one installed, which you don't really have time to do
No,
that for a gig.
I want to use this one since I have it.
Okay.
But gosh, like I pointed out, the action is so high, and the belling that you mentioned, gosh, that's a surprise.
Well, if it doesn't work out, we have a plan B, okay? So,
That's good. Gosh, that's disappointing.
yeah.
You know, to look at that, the evidence behind that bridge, disappointing.
Okay, so this looks like your standard truss rod wrench. Let's see. I like to look down at like the barrel of a gun and see how straight it is. Yeah, you can see that most of the problem you have is the bridge pulling up here. So that's not encouraging. Yeah.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Gosh, when you pointed that out, that finish coming up, you know?
You can see this pulling up.
Yeah, it's like, you know, the lady losing her fingernail, you know?
Yeah.
From the acrylic coming up.
Yeah.
The lift up, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna
Trying to get to that truss rod, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of in there a little bit. Let me loosen these strings a little bit.
Those strings have been on there for quite some time. They're kind of crusty.
Yeah, they've been there a while.
Yeah, it's like going to the podiatrist and not cleaning your feet, man. I apologize. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's see what we're doing there.
But yeah, based on this workbench here, you've seen quite a bit, it looks like.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. A lot of the ugly.
I'm sure you have some stories to tell on some of the stuff you've seen that's come in here.
Yeah, well, the worst is when somebody pulls a guitar out of their garage. It's been in their garage for 30 years and leaning up against the wall, and the neck is curved, and every cat in the neighborhood's peed on it. And they're like, "Hey, what can you do with this?" And you're like, "First of all, let me disinfect it."
Yeah, I can just imagine that visual.
Especially during the pandemic, people bringing guitars that were just
I can imagine.
crusty.
I can imagine some of those crusty stories. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Can't go too much on that because it's not too bad. But that's okay. So that's straight or even a little bit convex, but that's okay because the bridge is pulled. All right, let's take the strings off of it and see if there's any hope for this guy. All right, so we're just gonna pull these up, pull the pins out.
Got them all cut off, and
Yeah.
you saw some of that tension relief you mentioned, right?
Yeah, it moves a little bit. We're gonna put a lighter gauge on there, and hopefully it's playable and workable.
I hope so. Don't want to put, you know, a lot of money in it, obviously, right?
No.
But for it to be something that I might be able to save for the next practice or two, and maybe look for something else, you know?
Yeah, we can definitely do that one. All right,
There
so
you go.
we're just gonna put a little fretboard conditioner on it before we start, so just it's not so dry. A little too much, but whatever. We'll wipe it off. Just because it's probably been dry for a couple of years.
But you know, that fretboard, some fretboards are like, you know, maple pancakes. You know, when you got pancakes, you put the maple syrup on. You know, sometimes you just got to keep on putting the syrup on because they're so fluffy and airy.
This stuff's pretty good. It'll soak in, and you don't want the fretboard to start cracking. We're not in a real super dry climate like say Arizona or something like that where you've got to really watch the humidity, but still it doesn't hurt.
And then what kind of strings are you thinking? Because you've got a pair right there, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna put on some extra light aluminum bronze Ernie balls because they sound great, and they'll tend to make a more inexpensive guitar sound great, and they've got a lot of zing, they're very crisp, but they're very flexible as well. So with this having the action high, it'll help you a little bit, especially if you're just down in this area on the guitar. I don't know where.
Right. That's exactly right. First, like 7 frets.
Yeah, it'll help. It's not going to solve the issue completely. You might as well go put. Should we put the
Interesting on this one? You're going Ernie ball like you did with a Les Paul, right?
Yeah.
And the reason that you mentioned it, right, for the slinkability and the tonality.
They're good strings. They're flexible. Like the 10 set of Ernie balls on an electric is much more flexible than say like a Diodario or whatever. Which Diodario is nothing wrong with those. They're great strings, but these are pretty flexible. Okay.
So Troy, you think the nut's compromised? You think I should do anything about this nut?
No, then that's fine. It's just you know, that's the way IBANEZ nuts look. They kind of have that color like they're old, you know, sort of like dingy, sort of like bone, but they're not. You know, that's fine. No
bone,
problem.
but it's not bone, right?
No,
it's probably
not
synthetic, right?
No, it's synthetic. Yeah, yeah.
Huh. Do they still make bone?
Yeah, yeah. You can get like the ESP stuff, the Japanese stuff. It comes with the bone nuts, and I like the bone nuts. And a lot of pros,
Does it? Huh.
A lot of pros get the nuts replaced with bone on their touring guitars because, you know, it wears far less. If you're doing a lot of bending or whatever, or a lot of restringing, it's less wear.
I thought it was illegal for some reason to have actual bone, you know, especially here in the States.
One thing I know is illegal is tortoiseshell.
Understood. Hey, man, that's some great info.
Yeah.
So let's get to a restring, yeah? Cool.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so we're just going to check and see if maybe this thing's just got a shim in it that we can remove, or
shim.
Yeah, maybe so, because I'm not seeing any.
Why would they do? Well,
sometimes
I guess
they do
adjustment shim, I would imagine then, right?
No, it's not. It's just routed down. There's no shim. So we're stuck with either grinding it down or leaving it the way it is. And for now, we're going to leave it and go with the lighter strings.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so
strings, Troy. We just discussed it, but we gotta get this on film. Go for it.
Okay, so most acoustic strings are usually phosphor bronze or treated phosphor bronze or sometimes brass, but they're always wound over a steel core. So they'll pick up on a magnetic pickup like this, but the different alloys have a different sound, you know, a warmer sound, or like in this case, real crisp, bright, punchy sound with the aluminum bronze. It's a special alloy, you know. They've been doing it for a few years, but they sound really good. But most people use phosphor bronze. I just happen to like these a lot. It's personal preference, but like say on an electric guitar, you're gonna want like a nickel steel or whatever's going to be, you know, like Ernie has the cobalt wounds, which are really magnetically active with higher output. So you're with a regular pickup on an electric, you're looking for more output from the string magnetically. With these, you want the acoustic sound to, you know, vibrate the body and be really warm, as well as the magnetism if you have a pickup like this. Okay, so we got the strings in there with pegs on. What we got to do is clip them and get them rolling.
So you pre-clip them?
I do. Yeah, I go a little bit past the second. You could do a whip of 3 fingers or a little bit past the post you're winding. If you've been doing it for many, many years, you don't even think about it. So, you know.
So once again, how far did you go when you made the cut?
I usually do the width of 3 fingers together will be a perfect, you know, from the post to the next post, a little past here.
Yeah.
That's going to work.
The width of your 3 fingers. Okay.
Yeah, my 3 fingers. Yeah. Maybe 4 fingers for somebody
The width
else.
of 3 cigars.
Yeah,
let's say that for the audience, right?
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then, you know, I don't do anything fancy with the over under and all that stuff that ever, you know, because later on, if you're changing strings a lot, you end up hating that method, and it really is kind of unnecessary unless you're doing like nylon strings or something. But with these, I never have any problems.
Really? But you mentioned nylon.
Nylon strings, there's all kinds of special ways to tie up here and down here. So you've got to be really, because you don't want them slipping, because nylon tends to slip. But with the steel strings, you don't have to do all these. I see people do these crazy knots and stuff, and it's just more irritating than it is anything. You know?
Huh.
Yeah. I don't know that it does much good once the strings are stretched out. Once they're stretched out and on there, they're not really slipping around a lot. So
that's interesting to know. Beginner, intermediate, or pro.
Yeah.
Or amateur like myself. That's interesting. That's great to know.
Yeah. Otherwise, when you're taking them off, it's just such a pain. And you should be changing your strings often. So, you know, you don't want to be like fighting these knots every month or whatever.
You should if you're playing often.
Yeah. Yep. So anyways, we'll probably get a lot of people talking about why I'm not tying some fancy knot or going over, under, and doing all this stuff on the strings. Because everybody's got their thing. Everybody's got their opinion. But, you know, if you change enough strings and if you change your strings often, it just becomes a big pain in the butt to be doing that all the time. So I just do it like this. Never have any problems with any of my guitars. And, yeah, so
you're not taking it, bending it over a certain way, or turning it and overturning it and bringing it over the other side. You're not doing any of that. Which are pretty standard practices, of course, obviously, right? A lot of people do that.
Yep, they sure do.
In this case, you just put it through and then just turn it.
Yep, that's all I do.
But the nylon ones, you're saying, a little bit more sensitive. That's when you kind of
nylon ones, you got to make sure they're not slipping. Yep. All right, bye. that Chester was going to take their hand off there.
No, Chester's gonna stay put, man. on command, on command. Daddy's restringing here. Yeah. Chester's not going anywhere. So yeah, these tuners with the little nut at the top.
Yeah.
For the post.
Yeah.
I don't know if that has anything to do with them slipping at all. Do they have to, or do you think it's just internal with those, you know, the gears?
If the gears got is it like messed up inside? If it's starting to wear or there's not getting any grease, it'll make a notch. It'll be really notchy, and you won't be able to it'll miss or click or whatever. But the main thing I find with tuners from the factory is they never ever tighten the damn tuners down. Like right from the factory, like even these ones
can use some adjustment. Yeah,
they're loose, so it's not bad, but you've got a screw in the back that sort of stabilizes it. But I want everything to be tight and right as far as tuners go.
I think what you mentioned as far as just the wear and tear on the gear.
Yeah.
If it was a 12-to-1 or a 10-to-1. Oh wow! Did you see that move?
Yeah.
Oh, but that was extreme.
Yeah. So that's going to affect your tuning.
Gosh, that was like a ghost sighting, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
To see that tuner move so much. Oh my.
Yeah, and it happens every new guitar I get in. It doesn't matter who makes it. It's the same thing.
Wow.
All right, so we got the strings on there. It's sort of tuned. Let's see what we can do to get it a little more fine-tuned and see what it sounds like, see how it feels. I kind of pre-stretch them a little bit. They're going to stretch just a little bit more. But
yeah, I saw you pre-stretch those strings, man. I was taken back by, you know, how strongly you pulled on those things.
That's
Jesus,
right, man. It's like you're reeling in a marlin.
Yeah, I was like, phew, that poor bridge. No, but you know, you say that's fine. You stretch the strings if they're in place and they're locked in, like you mentioned.
Yeah, they are. Oh, it plays a lot better.
Crispy. Gosh, man, that's great, Troy. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Troy, as you put the truss rod cover back on, gosh, what a difference those strings did make. Gosh.
Yeah, they're real punchy. They're really nice. The aluminum bronze is a cool alloy.
Wow, what a difference. Yeah, the action, as I put it in hand, you know, it came down a little bit, but for the viewers, I'm keeping it right here. It is high, you can see it, above the 12th fret. It came down a little bit, but it was easier to play. Yeah. I just banged out a couple of chords on it and getting ready for tonight. But yeah, it did play better. So yeah, thank you so much, you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it, Troy.
All right.
Good stuff, isn't it, guys? Yeah, now we know how to restring these things and got a lot of info and intel from Troy on the different types of strings and the metals using them. So thanks a bunch, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe and appreciate all the support on the channel.